so cool for me, just as like, not only for as a reporter and being at work, but as just a college football fan, to see how raucous that was and so fun. It was great. I definitely had to try to take a deep breath and monitor the heart rate just before I did my open hit to settle down a bit.
Welcome into another week, another great conversation. I have Stormy Buonantony here from ESPN, and she does a great job with the college football playoff and also for VSiN in Las Vegas. Stormy, how are we doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And as someone with a very challenging last name, perfect pronunciation, very proud of you.
I was about to say, like, people see the Z in the name and they're like, they want to add an S. They want to say Cousins or Couzin, which is not correct. Not correct. So we're trying to get people out here saying names correctly.
I'm about it. Yes, I feel like that is one, because there is like a Mike Cousins, right? So
and there's a Nick Cousins in the NHL.
Very true. Yeah, used to be a former Vegas Golden Knight.
Yeah. So wild world out here, a lot of same names, but nobody has yours. I know that for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, let's Google how many Stormy Buonantonys are out there. Like, I'm the queen of the weird words for names police here.
Oh yeah, for sure. The queen of names. All right, Stormy, so let's get into the college football playoff. You've been killing the coverage with the college football playoff. What is the environment for you as a sideline reporter when you get into these big time games?
Yeah, it's been fun. And I worked a game in the first round at Autzen Stadium for Oregon JMU. And then I did the Orange Bowl with Oregon and Texas Tech as well. And it was interesting to see the difference of environments, right? Because Autzen, even with it being an opponent where they were such a big favorite against, those fans came out, man. It was unbelievable. And it just kind of reaffirmed how much so many of us as fans are fighting for more home playoff games to be a thing. And there's a lot of different things we don't need to get into about the bowl system and how all of that works. But like that was
hours.
Yeah, like that could be a whole other podcast, a whole other show. But that was so cool for me, just as like, not only for as a reporter and being at work, but as just a college football fan, to see how raucous that was and so fun. It was great. I definitely had to try to take a deep breath and monitor the heart rate just before I did my open hit to settle down a bit. But it was great. And then the Orange Bowl was fun too, in that it was a game that I didn't expect necessarily. I definitely thought it was going to be one of those games that was going to come down to the fourth quarter. And it was kind of a weird game, a weird one where Texas Tech didn't really show up on offense, which was, I think, surprising for them too. And how many fans they had in that building. Like, Texas Tech filled the Orange Bowl with their fans, and it just wasn't their day. But a fun experience nonetheless. And I am very excited to be heading back out to Miami as well, because I do the in-stadium MC for the national championship. I've done that the last couple of years. And so back to Miami soon.
Sweet. What do you picture that to be like? I mean, Miami's got a home game, but Indiana's just been destroying like every team in their way.
For real. Semifinal game, where was the green? Like, were there any Oregon fans in the building because Hoosier Nation took that place over? I'm curious to see what the split ultimately is going to be when we get out there. But I think it's such a best of both worlds, where you have this team in Miami who, yes, gets to play at home for the first time that we've ever seen that in the modern era. But on the other side, you have a team that's never been in this situation, that historically was the worst program in college football, that has a quarterback from Miami. Just the storylines, they all write themselves. It's going to be such a good, fun game. I'm curious your opinion on this, though. This is something that my co-host JVT and I have talked a lot about on Muddy Moves, our show during the week, is, could Indiana just be like UConn of a couple years ago in college basketball, where it didn't matter who you put in front of them, they just rolled, they win and cover any number, they're bound to win it all? Like, I worry. I think Miami is unbelievable, and I think we're going to have a fun back and forth game, but there's something in the back of my head that's like, maybe Indiana's just that good that they're just going to keep doing this.
I'm with you. I mean, just, you're like looking at, like, I mean, you're into the betting. You're looking at the lines, and like some of these lines are like Indiana 3 points. I'm like, is this going to be the game where Indiana falls off? And then no, it's just getting it going and not stopping. The one game I did see that was close, though, I was at that game, was when they played at Iowa. They really struggled against that Iowa defense, but Miami's defense, not out here looking like the Hawkeyes defense of some years. But yeah, with that, college football players a little bit different with the sideline perspective. There's two of you covering both of the teams. So you've worked with Chris Budden and you've worked with Katie George so far through these playoffs. So how is that dynamic different for you when you're just focusing on the one team versus two teams in a normal week broadcast?
Well, I certainly log fewer miles. So that's one thing, when you're on one sideline and then there's an injury on the other side and you're sprinting to the other side of the field. Like college basketball and college football, very different surfaces that you have to maneuver for injuries. So I definitely get my steps in a college football game. So that's a little bit different, sharing the workload and cutting your prep time down significantly too, because you're only really I'm only doing stories on that side and what's going on for that sideline and sharing stories for that sideline. The only time we do coverage for the other side is post game. And so obviously you still do prep for the full game, but you are so much more in the weeds on your sideline that it's definitely a little bit of a different job than I'm accustomed to doing. And sometimes, they'll be talking about other things. I'm like, I want to jump in on that, but no, it's not my place. It's okay. But it was really fun. And especially as a sideline reporter, because you're usually all dispersed to different games across the country on a normal Saturday, you don't get to work together very often. So that's been such a fun experience to pick Chris and Katie's brains a little bit on what their process is like to prep for a game, what their notes look like, what are some key things that really help them be the most effective and efficient at the job, and sharing little trade secrets and stuff, which has been kind of a fun, unique change.
And Laura Rutledge too, she went viral. That video, was it Fiesta Bowl, where she's running and getting to the SEC set? Have you ever had any crazy stories like that where you maybe, leave a microphone or something happens where you have to sprint across the field?
Are you joking? Did you find that on my social media about me leaving a microphone somewhere? Are you messing with me right now?
Yes. Yeah, I did see it.
Okay. Yes, because that definitely happened to me. Laura is amazing. And the Berman, by the way, play-by-play.
Oh, that was amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Woo! Just 10 out of 10. So good. But yeah, that definitely happened to me this year. And I am so good about, if I leave my microphone on my little table at halftime, I'll walk 10 feet and then I'll realize that I left it and I'll go back and get it. But there was definitely a moment earlier this season. I was doing a game at Cal and I am on the complete other side of the field, getting ready to do my hit out of halftime about what Justin Wilcox just told me. And I don't have my microphone, and I got my team is the best. My cameraman was trying to help me out. My super kind security guard ran all the way across the field. Little did he know my A2 was already coming back with it because he saw I was missing it. It was all chaos, but you would never have known it when we got on TV that it happened had our cameras not captured it and made fun of me for it later.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right there. That's what happens. And I also see on your social media, you're in your stories, especially, you have your Saturday night college football game, and then you're going right to Vegas, in that night. Do you have any crazy travel stories? Maybe you almost you're barely making it back to Vegas for your VSiN Sunday show or anything like that? Yeah.
So many flights that have been almost missed, connections almost missed, or I will land at the airport. My show in Pacific time starts at 9:00 in the morning on Sunday mornings. And so I'll have a flight that it's supposed to land at 7:45 or 8, but it doesn't. And I am trying to drive legally as well as possible because I have to get to the parking garage, pay for that, figure out how to get out of it, get to work, and then still be in studio, mic'd up and set to go. Lots of close calls, lots of chaotic texts that I'm sending, and police officers. It was all at a red light when I sent these text messages. Let that be known. But to my producer, hey, we're going to be cutting it close. Can you have the door open? All of those types of things. Because the turnaround, especially because my job in college football more weeks than not is to do that West Coast night game, the kind of 7:30 Pacific time kickoff. So we'll get off the air and I'll be back at the hotel packing my suitcase after midnight. In some cases, if we have an overtime game, it's like 1:30. And then you've got some adrenaline still from the game too. So it's hard to go to sleep.
Mhm.
And then you have to be up at 3:00 in the morning or 3:30 or 4 to get to the 5:30 a.m. flight to get home by 7:30. And it's for the show that starts at 9. So it's very much so chaotic. And I feel like never ending at times, very little sleep, very, very caffeinated during those hours. And then I usually will crash after my show is over because it's a 4-hour show that I host on Sundays. But I'm a 49ers fan, and more often than not, they play in the afternoon. So then I'm just, instead of taking a nap like I might need to, I'm just like sitting on the couch in a trance, just trying to watch the 49ers survive all their injuries.
That must have been a fun Sunday night game to watch the other week. Not for me as a Bears fan, but for you as a 49ers fan.
I think that you guys are doing just fine out there in Chicago right now. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, we already won our Super Bowl beating the Packers, so it's all good if the season ends now. It's all,
I do love all the locker room videos that have come out of Ben Johnson and company. That's all been really, really fun. But I cannot believe San Francisco beat the Eagles.
Insane.
I am stunned. The road probably ends there with another meeting with Seattle, who just totally clamped down on what this offense that had been so good, didn't let them do anything, held them to the fewest points in the Kyle Shanahan era in week 18. So we'll see if they can tweak things enough, but without George Kittle, I don't love our chances there against one of the best defenses in the NFL. My hope is that Sam Darnold is just going to Darnold it up. Like that is the best way for us to get through this thing, is that and late season Sam Darnold will come to play. That's what'll get us there.
In my opinion, this is Kyle Shanahan's best coaching job, I feel like. I don't know, because with all the injuries and everything, I think it's the best.
So obviously I do things from a betting perspective in a lot of ways. And the market for NFL Coach of the Year at the end of the season was fascinating to watch, because I believe going into week 18, he was like plus 310, second to fourth on the board in that range for Coach of the Year. Vrabel has been the favorite for a long time. But like you said, like I think the coaching job that he has done has been masterful and should absolutely, like if he does not win, he should at the very least be second in the voting kind of a thing. Like I think what he has done has been tremendous. But they lose that week 18 game to Seattle, and his odds go from like plus 350 range to 300 to 1, even though they were in a position with all those injuries to play for the 1 seed that week. That's what that one loss all of a sudden knocks it. That doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. So I'll be fascinated to see what the voting ends up coming down for Coach of the Year, because that did not make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you were talking about odds. As someone who looks at odds and talks about odds on a show for 4 hours and also more throughout the week, how do you view odds? How do you look at odds? How does that help you kind of prep things in your ideas?
Well, I think it's interesting sometimes, because like in college football or college basketball, you see rankings and there are numbers that are associated with certain teams. And so you're like, oh, this is such a massive upset. But the team that had the ranking was actually a 5-point underdog in the game. Like, no, that wasn't an upset. That team was supposed to win. And so the difference between like an AP poll and a selection committee ranking versus a power ranking and where a team sits from an odds standpoint is always such it's just a very interesting thing, I think, for me to look at, and how the public at large might perceive a team versus how people are betting on a game or a team might view it. And I make my own, like I'll set my own number for what I think a game is going to be. And then I'll see what the odds makers have it at, and we'll see where the disconnect is. And it's just, I think throughout the course of the year in whatever sport you cover or you bet, it's an interesting exercise just to see how that all ultimately shakes out and how good odds makers are at times about it, right? Because how many bad beats do you see where, or that something lands right on the number and it's just like, oh, they always know.
What makes you nervous about just putting your bet picks out there and having people, place them?
Yeah, I think whenever money is involved in anything, there's always like, I want to make sure that I'm serving my audience and that I'm helping them with profitability and being something that helps build the bankroll, not take away from it. And so that can certainly be stressful at times when you're on a losing streak. But hey, you can like be self-deprecating and make fun of it. Fine. I'm not doing well right now. Fade me. Make all your money on me not doing well. Do it, please. All I want are good things for you. So that's at least an approach I have for it. Is we're very transparent at VSiN about our record. We post all of our picks on our website. In addition to what we give out on air, we track them all. We have spreadsheets with every single bet we give out every single day, whether it cashes or not. So we're really transparent about it. At least we try to be. If somebody ever tried to ask me for my bet log, I can give it to you in 2 seconds, And so I think that's good, at least, because there are a lot of people that are touts or sell picks or put them out on social media and don't track it, but only celebrate the wins and make themselves seem like they're a lot better than they are. Like, we are very honest on our network, and I think that's a positive.
Betting's becoming huge in the sports landscape. I think I see everything like FanDuel, DraftKings, everything. What is it about like sports betting now you think it's made it such a big area, and where there's now networks that talk about it and specific analysts that talk about it?
Well, I mean, sports betting's been going on forever, right? But when PASPA was repealed a handful of years ago, that set the stage for legalization across the country. And it just, I think, expanded the way people viewed it. For such a long time, it was so taboo and it's bad for the game and it's this and it's that. And we still have controversy that comes up in sport, and the concept of point shaving, or the stuff that we saw with Jonte Porter or now Terry Rozier and what's come up. But I think what the difference is in 2026 with all of these major sports books that are keeping track of all of this stuff is that now it's found out. And in the past, there are things like this that might have been going on behind the scenes, but you have a sports book now that can actively track unusual or suspicious activity and tell you who it's coming in on, where it's coming from. And it's a different layer of protection that I think actually helps the integrity of the sport. And I know I'm somebody that talks about sports betting for a living. So like, I know that I come from this at a very different viewpoint than other people do. But the more you think about it, like, I think legalization and having that act of being able to identify suspicious activity is such a positive for the public at large that is interested in sports and the NFL and the NHL and Major League Baseball and like all of these things, versus people just doing it behind the scenes and having sketchy stuff go on. But the landscape of sports betting, how it's grown, I think it's so cool. And it's something that a lot of my girlfriends that aren't really sports people have, like, it's made them interested in watching a game, which I think is so fun and cool, that somebody who might not otherwise have watched sports has an anytime touchdown pick on DJ Moore and is sweating it all game and is really engaged in the game and having fun for their $5 bet. It doesn't matter if you bet $2 or $200 or $2,000, that's your money and you're riding for this game. And I think that's a fun thing to get other people involved who might not have been.
And then you have to wait till the final seconds for DJ Moore to cash on that anytime touchdown. The last couple of games,
example you would appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about game days, your typical Saturday game day. What are you doing? How does it look before you go to the stadium? And then once you get there?
Sure. Well, like I said, so my game days more often than not are at the very end of the night. So whereas a lot of my cohorts are waking up super early in the morning, have to get ready, be at the field at like God knows what time, I don't have to be. So I wake up, I watch College Game Day like all of you. I finish some of my notes. We'll have our final production meeting, which is, producer of the game, director, graphics, replay, play-by-play analyst, myself. Like, there's a handful of people that are a part of the game broadcast in the truck and in the booth, going through what are the major things that we're going to be looking for in this game, key matchups, storylines that we really think are important to hit, but also being prepared that the game's going to dictate everything. So we might just throw all this out the window and we're going to be flying by the seat of our heels here. But that meeting, I feel like, is always really productive, where we'll talk through how we want to formulate the open of the broadcast, our main storylines. I'll make some of my pitches. Brock Osweiler is my analyst, so I'll ask him, hey, what are some specific things on the sideline you think I should be watching for in this game? He's like, you know what? I think that the way that this defensive line attacks this offensive lineman is going to be really interesting. So if you can listen in on those position groups, that kind of thing, just to kind of set the stage for what we think we might see. And then I'll watch as much football as I can, maybe go on a walk just to get some fresh air, eat some lunch, and then go over to the stadium and get ready, obviously. Go over to the stadium whenever it's required. We get there usually between like 2 and 3 hours before kickoff, just depending on what we need and what needs to get done, how far the facility is from where we're staying. Keep tabs on pregame warmups. I have like a pregame checklist that I have for every game of players who may or may not be available. We haven't gotten confirmation on yet. Players I need to maybe just watch in pregame warmups. I'll go through the 2 deep during the padded warmups, make sure everybody who's supposed to be there is there, because sometimes they're not, and sports information directors be tricky. And
Yes.
so, or like, I have one story that I'll never forget, and it was Michael Pratt from Tulane a couple years ago. In warmups, we were wondering, is he or isn't he going to play? And our analyst keyed in on that. His ankles weren't taped. He was out there for the padded warmups. He was throwing. He was taking snaps with the first team center, but his ankles weren't taped. And our analyst was like, he's not playing. And he was right. And he didn't play. And so those are the types of like mind games teams will play in pregame that we're trying to identify while we're down there. Talk to a couple coaches before the game, get some final thoughts or different things, and then kick off and we're underway.
How does that work with the like building the relationships with the coaches or the players? Because you're doing those in-game interviews, doing those post-game interviews, and some of them react differently to those. Some of them like them, some of them don't. So how does that all work out with talking to them and getting them used to that whole thing?
Well, and some coaches have a completely different demeanor in your pregame meeting and conversation than they do when they're in game mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a defensive end who could be the sweetest guy in the world when you talk to him off camera. He's a big teddy bear, but when he's on the field, he is a menace to society, and you do not want to get in the way of that guy. There are coaches who have personality changes like that in game too. So I think going in and having an awareness of what type of coach you're working with is always helpful at the start. Having a coach that you have had or built trust and built a relationship with before helps in those moments, that they're a little bit more at ease and they know you're not going to ask a gotcha question in that moment that you're watching the game. You're going to ask a well-equipped question for the moment. But sometimes like a guy's just in a bad mood and you got to just eat it and move on to the next thing. That's inevitable. It's going to happen, and just understanding that that's part of the job. But fortunately, they understand it's part of the job too. You know, like I think something people forget about all of this is that those are not required. We request them, we ask that they be done, but they agree to it. So that's part of the job that they signed up for too in that moment. So a lot of people like try to come for reporters and then I'm like, they know this isn't a surprise. Like they know that we're going to do this right now.
When the broadcast comes down to you and it's not an interview, it's just a normal hit. If it's not an injury, kind of what's like the one thing that you want to immediately get out that you think is important?
I think just like for most reporters, whether you're a print journalist or you're out there in the field, it's don't bury the lead, because especially in the sideline role, you get such limited time to speak. It's, you know, the max amount of time I'll get in a game is like 42 seconds, right? The bulk of my hits are going to be in the 15 to 30 second range. So making sure whatever the priority and like the most important information of my hit is out there right away, because once the ball is snapped, like I need to shut up. It's the worst feeling in the world. And it's okay if it's like a little dinky handoff on a second down that doesn't really matter at the end of the game when a game's out of reach. Those kinds of things are different. But the worst feeling in the world is getting caught when the ball is snapped and you know that's play-by-play's moment. And inevitably, if you speak over a snap, that's when an interception is going to happen. That's when it's going to be a big pop play. And so I never want to be that person. As often as humanly possible, I want to get my information out there, make sure that the most important stuff is there, and that I zip it up before the ball snapped.
And you've worked a lot of different roles too. At ESPN, you've done hockey. I saw you at the FCS championship game a couple of years ago. That's how we connected. And you're still doing that too. I saw you in Nashville. And then you also did like work with the Panthers and the Golden Knights. So like over time, just what have you picked up on that's really helped you kind of both find your voice and also just like know, hey, like when they're coming out to me, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'll say hockey specifically, you have to be even quicker with your reports because like a goal can happen in a flash and you don't want to be talking over that moment. Honestly, I'll be watching some hockey broadcasts and the reporter's still going. There's a shot on goal. I'm like, I have anxiety as a viewer because I just know that internal anxiety when you're the reporter in that moment. So I totally get that. But the job itself and like doing all of these different sports, I think has made me more comfortable in general. That like I there's a confidence I think that naturally starts to come with developing an ability to learn a sport quickly or learn how to adapt to covering a sport quickly. And for me, like such a big base of what I think makes a successful reporter is just command of content. You never want to have your face buried in your notes because you're looking for a stat or you're looking for a quote. So as much as possible in your preparation, as you're learning things, cementing those things to memory so you don't have to reference them. And I think that's helped me like in a huge way because like I say, you don't want to you can't speak over a goal. You don't want to speak over a snap if you can help it. You don't want to be one of those viral videos of somebody who gets tackled on the sideline because your head isn't up. And so command of content, I think, is going to make you better at your job as a reporter, just in terms of the quality of what you're saying and the ease with which you're saying it, but also just an awareness of where you're at and what you're doing, that you're not put in any of those tough positions.
And hockey's interesting too, because you're either on the bench or you're like between the benches or you got glass by you. So how is hockey different, just having a different setting versus a sideline?
Sure. And like working hockey for a team is different than covering hockey for a national network too, because when I worked for the team, I was never between the benches. I was always in a VOM where I was behind a glass and you're protected, and your coverage is a little bit different too. Hockey is very guarded when it comes to their injuries, whereas the National Football League, you're watching a game, their PR people are coming down to you telling you this person's getting evaluated for a concussion. This person's done for the game with an ankle injury. Like you get that information. With hockey, it's like being evaluated for a lower body injury.
Yeah, it's always upper or lower body. Yeah.
Yes, like UBI. But like it's a different role because whereas in football, we're very heavily injury focused. In hockey, it's not quite the same role. It is more what's going on the bench that I can see right now. When you're between the benches, you do have the ability to, at least in those initial seats that are near you, hear some of the conversation or see when a guy loses a stick, the chaos that's going on with the equipment staff trying to make sure you get one out to him right away. And that's more of the side of it that I come from. You have a couple of those stories that you hope that you can get in, but 90% of the time we're throwing it all out anyways. Like that's another role that I don't know if people really think about in Sideline, is so much of the job is eyes and ears. And that's the best day if you're a sideline reporter, is when you have a ton of eyes and ears reports that you can contribute to the broadcast, but you have all these notes and prep that you work on, these stories you fall in love with after conversations with players and coaches that like you're probably not going to get in 90% of it, if not more. And so having to be okay with that.
Yeah, sometimes you're just like writing the story as the game goes and you have to scratch it all out and you start over again. That's how it goes. And you live in Vegas. There's a big, massive pro sports boom there right now. It started with the Knights winning the Stanley Cup, and then now you have the Raiders there, and now the A's are coming there. Just besides it being like the epicenter of sports betting, what is it about the Vegas sports boom that really is attracting teams there?
Well, I don't know necessarily what's attracting teams, but I mean, it's a great city and it's always been a great city. And it's been one that craved sports for, I think, a very long time and was a natural fit. But there was a fear from, yes, the sports betting side of it, the party culture side of it, that I think scared a lot of teams. But now you look at, hey, why couldn't this be a place that hosted a Super Bowl, as we saw recently? because of all of the hotel infrastructure they have, so many activities you can do around the game, the convention center. There's so much available here. And the infrastructure is just automatic for any major event that you want to have here. And I think you learned through the Vegas Golden Knights and kind of sparking that boom that there is a passionate fan base here as well. And yes, I understand like a lot of the deep rooted connection was unfortunately in tragedy initially with what happened here in the city and how everyone kind of rallied after the October 1 shooting here and the team winning, and how great they were to the community just really became cohesive after that. But even when the Raiders came to town, whether it's people here, like there was a strong Raiders fan base here in town before they came, and now you have all the people from Oakland and the Bay Area that travel up here on game days for it. The Aces are unbelievable in the WNBA, and all they do, it feels like, is win, and what Becky Hammon has done. And so I think success like breeds success a little bit. And you see these teams come here and they have this great relationship with the city. They win on the field, on the ice, on the court, whatever it is. And you just kind of want to be a part of that fun. But I know for me, as someone who was born and raised in Las Vegas, none of this existed when I grew up here. And there was basically UNLV athletics, and for a time in my very, very deep youth, some minor league baseball, right? Like that's about it. And I love the Aviators. They have one of the best minor league ballparks in the country here in Vegas now too. But as someone who, when I figured out what I wanted to do in life, never in a million years thought I could or would work here. And for this city to grow into what it has, I don't know if I ever want to leave. It's become so unbelievable to be here. And there are so many major events here. I mentioned the Super Bowl, NCAA tournament, Final Four, like the conference tournaments that are here in college basketball every single year is so fun. And I just think doors are going to continue to open and it's going to continue to grow.
And you also have the basketball tournament too. The Big 12 is supporting it with NIL money there too, playing at MGM and where the Aces play. Yep. So you have it's almost like it's like a pre-March Madness, but like over Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, it's so fun. Like the Pac-12 used to be here, but obviously like we don't have a Pac-12 currently. But like
RIP.
Yeah, we have like another year of the WCC at its core. The WAC tournament is here. The Mountain West tournament is here. It's so fun every year that you get, like, that's always the weekend I recommend people come to Vegas, because everyone wants to come out for the first like couple days of March Madness, but the sports books are just like jam-packed. It's every bachelor party and their mom is out here that weekend. But if you just come a week earlier, you get awesome in-person basketball as well as the sportsbook experience, and it's nowhere near as busy. So that means your prices at the tables are going to be less. Your like general prices for seating are going to be down. Like that's always the weekend that I tell people they should consider coming.
There we go. We're giving out some travel advice.
I got you.
To people here. Yeah, being a West Coast person, what do you enjoy most about the West Coast? I know you went out east for a little bit, but what do you enjoy most about being a West Coast person?
Go ahead.
Because like when I went out there to visit my friend in Arizona, I was like, we're watching hockey and basketball at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And he's like, we get it all, man.
Yeah, we are. And that's what I was going to say. The number one best thing about working in the West Coast, living in the West Coast, is the time with which we get to watch sports. Like I know people on the East Coast love their 1 o'clock kickoff. Miss me with that. I will take mimosas and bagels, watching the early games, having a Bailey's and coffee, enjoying myself, over having to watch Monday Night Football that goes into like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like I have no interest in that at all. When I lived in Charlotte, and I'm a San Diego State alum, I like following UNLV basketball as well. I'd be like watching a basketball game that would tip off at 11 p.m. Eastern time, wanting to die. And I would stay up for those games because it's my team. And I'd be miserable the next day, especially if I stayed up that late and they lost. But yeah, West Coast sports times are just the best. Unbelievable.
Yeah, 11 p.m. games, that's dedication to sit up and watch those.
Terrible. And again, to watch like bad basketball, just not good.
Much respect, much respect. And just quickly before we sign off here, just with ESPN, you've built yourself up to get to these big time games. So over your time there, just how did you kind of get connected with that and kind of build up to where you are now in that role that you have?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's I will say it's not something that happens overnight. And I think a lot of people might see you on a game and just think like, oh, that's so lucky. And I certainly feel that way. And I'm very grateful. But it's been a lot of work and reps and grinding it on games that you didn't see, and being like doing sideline for free for a couple years before someone would actually pay me to do it, working a game where I have a microphone that's tethered to one area on the field and I have to disconnect the IFB to go get information and come back. Like, there's a lot of time that's come into that. But at ESPN specifically, I will forever be grateful to someone who actually doesn't work there anymore. His name is Chris Farrow. He used to be a big CP for college basketball at ESPN, worked there for years and years and years. I met him when I was in Charlotte. I was working for the Carolina Panthers as kind of like a digital reporter, broadcast associate, one-man band type of a job. And he agreed to meet me, just to meet me and give me a tour essentially of SEC Network, because that's out there in Ballantyne in Charlotte. And we had a really nice conversation, and he, gave me some feedback on my reel, and we kept in touch for months. And then I got a random email from him one day that just said, I have a game for you if you can be available on this day. I was like, yes, sir. I will clear the schedule. I will be there on that day. And he gave me an opportunity there. And I didn't mess up bad enough to where that game led to another game. And then a couple games led to a package of games, and then a 1-year contract, and then a 2-year contract. And it's just kind of like grown from that little, somebody taking a chance on you, being nice, throwing you on a game that they didn't have to. And then he ended up later on recommending me to football, because like I said, that audition was basketball. And Chris Farrow, forever, just the GOAT. I am so appreciative of him. I would not be doing anything that I am doing now if it wasn't for him giving me that opportunity.
Awesome stuff, Stormy. We'll look forward to seeing you MC at the national championship game too. Looking forward to that. And just tell people where they can see all your work on social media, because you are a good follow.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Follow me on X at Storm Buonantony. There weren't enough characters available for Stormy Buonantony, so just Storm Buonantony. And then on Instagram, I'm at Stormy with 3 S's, because I made my Instagram account when I was like 14, and that was just what was available. So it's had that account for a little too long, I would say. But yeah, give me a follow. Check out the work. VSiN Money Moves, 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern every day on Sirius XM channel 158.
Always have to plug, and make sure you like and subscribe to this channel as well. Stormy, this has been fun.
You gotta.
Oh yeah, hit that subscribe button. That's what you should do. But Stormy, this has been really fun. I enjoy that you were able to hang out with me here on Cousins Conversations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And go Bears until or unless they face San Francisco in the NFC Championship.
Yes, then we are probably not talking after that. So
mortal enemies.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.